51 English phrases that Americans use on a daily basis. Phrase number 1 is spill the beans. Piece of cake. Off the top of my head, just get your ducks in a row. A party pooper. Get a kick out of it. What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Claire. This video is gonna be all in English because today we're gonna share 51 English phrases that Americans use on a daily basis but international students might not know of. And if this is the first time you see me, hello friend, welcome to the family. Here we'll share everything about English learning, TOEFL test prep tips, and everything about studying abroad. Pretty amazing, right? So if you haven't already, click the red subscribe button to join the family right now. And before we get started, save this video to your playlist right now so that you can play this every single day during your commute and during your lunch break until you remember every phrase by heart. Have you done it? Awesome, let's get started. Phrase number 1 is spill the beans. So when you tell someone spill the beans, you are asking them to hurry up and tell you the information, tell you something that you want to know. It could also mean that you accidentally slip them information to someone else that you should have kept to yourself. So for example, you could say, we originally planned a birthday party for my coworker, but a delivery person accidentally spilled the beans to him about it. It means the delivery guy accidentally slipped the information that a surprise birthday party is happening for him. Spill the beans. Phrase number 2, cut to the chase. So when you tell someone cut to the chase, you are asking them to stop beating around a bush or stop giving you useless information and actually tell you what's on their mind. Get to the point. So for example, you could say, just cut to the chase. What has actually happened today? Cut to the chase. Phrase number 3, cutting it close. So there are actually 2 different meanings for this phrase. The first one is to complete something very close to its time limit. So for example, you could say, we'll be cutting it close, but we should be able to get to the movie theater before the movie starts. So cutting it close. Another meaning for this phrase is to almost lose or fail. So for example, you could say they ended up winning the game, but they really cut it close at the end, meaning that the team almost lost, but they ended up winning. 在继续讲更多英文句之前，如果你喜欢这个影片，希望 Claire 做另外一集关于日常生活中超好用的聊天句型的话，请在底下帮我留言9个字。英文口说万用聊天句，如果超过20则留言以上的话 ，Claire 就会做另外一集像这样的影片，让你每天可以重复听练习口说哦。那如果你想要练口说的捷径的话，好消息是现在由 Claire 跟美国名校老师共同筹办的口说练习团开团啦。那入团的同学都会有1对1跟美国名校老师上绘画课的机会，也会有小组式的团练课，让你可以不再说英文的环境，也有全英文的说话机会。那入团的同学呢，也会有我们的还原式绘画库。这个还原式绘画库呢，是 Claire 现在在美国洛杉矶生活的时候，时不时就拿出手机，把跟朋友、牙医师、店员的对话录制起来，然后请老师在原音重现录音一遍，所以是最直接、最快速学习你日常生活中真实会用到绘画的英文。所以呢，如果有兴趣的话，优惠入团的链接我放在底下资讯栏，可以去看看哦。Phrase number 4, it's not rocket science. So when you tell someone it's not rocket science, you're trying to tell them it's actually not that hard. It's easier than you think it is. Don't make a big deal about it. So for example, you could say, my coach always tells me playing basketball is not rocket science. It's all about putting the ball in the basket. It's not rocket science. Phrase number 5, piece of cake. So when you say something is a piece of cake, you're indicating that it doesn't require much effort from you. It's very easy for you to do. And to give you more context, it's often used in a friendly competition where you're just like, it's a piece of cake. I got this. So for example, you could say, I thought the test was gonna be difficult, but it turned out to be a piece of cake. So, piece of cake. Phrase number 6, I'll take a rain check. So, you've probably heard of this phrase somewhere before and you're like, what's a rain check? So, it actually means that you are trying to politely reject someone's invitation, but you'd like to do it somewhere down the line. So, for example, if your coworker invite you out for dinner, but you have some work to do and you cannot go out that night, you would say, how about a rain check? I'll take a rain check. Phrase number 7, that's up my alley. So when something is up someone's alley, it means that the thing is suited to someone's abilities or taste, interest. So for example, you could say Kate loves dancing, so a bachata lesson would be right up her alley. It means that she will definitely enjoy the dance lesson. That's up my alley. Phrase number 8, that's bonkers. So when you say that's bonkers, you're trying to say it's unbelievable, it's bananas, it's nuts, I cannot believe it. So for example, you could say, I went to this party yesterday and it was bonkers. Everything was in purple. It means that you could not believe your eyes. That's bonkers. Phrase number 9, working the graveyard shift. So it has nothing to do with actually working in the graveyard. It means that you're working very late at night. Typically, it's from midnight all the way to the next day around 8 in the morning. So for example, you could say he paid for his college by working the graveyard shift as a hospital cleaner. It means that he's working the night shifts at the hospital to pay up his tuition, working the graveyard shift. Phrase number 10, have a green thumb. So when someone has a green thumb, it means that they're very good at growing the plants and actually keeping them alive, which is the most important part and the part that I'm very not good at. So you could say that my sister has a green thumb, but I kill most plants I buy. Have a green thumb. The next phrase is a ballpark figure. So a ballpark figure means an estimate. For example, you could say, give me a ballpark figure of the sales this year, meaning that I want to know how much you sell this year. A ballpark figure. The next phrase is pretty similar. It's a rough estimate. So when you ask someone to give you a rough estimate, you're asking for a very quick and general estimate. So for example, you could say, she made a rough estimate about how much she sold this year. A rough estimate. The next phrase is off the top of my head. So when you say off the top of my head, it means that the first thought that you could think of for an estimate or for a memory recall. So you could say, off the top of my head, I think renting a 2-bedroom apartment will cost about $3,000 a month. So off the top of my head. Phrase number 14 is jump the gun. So when you say someone is jumping the gun, you're basically saying that the person is doing something too early or before the proper time. You're saying that he's doing that without thinking that it's better to do it later. So for example, you could say Victor really jumped the gun with his project proposal. He should have waited until the other proposal was either rejected or accepted. Jump the gun. The next phrase is to get ahead of oneself. So if you tell someone, hey, I think you're getting ahead of yourself, it means that you think the person is doing something before he is ready or prepared. You're basically trying to say like, hey, I think you're doing this thing too early. So for example, in a discussion, if you are too many steps ahead of everyone, you could say, oops, sorry, sometimes I get ahead of myself. Sorry, sometimes I get ahead of myself. The next phrase is hold your horses. So when you tell someone, whoa, hold your horses, you're trying to tell them to take it slow, don't pressure you. And it comes in really handy when someone's trying to push you or rush you into doing something. You could say, whoa, 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 hold your horses. So for example, you could say, hold your horses, I'll be ready in a minute or two. It means that just give me a second and I will be ready to go out. Hold your horses. The next phrase is scoot over. So when you tell someone, could you please scoot over? You're trying to say, can you move a little bit so I have some space to fit in? So for example, you could say, could you scoot over a little bit so I can have some space to sit here? So scoot over. The next phrase is I plead the fifth. So when you say I plead the fifth, you're trying to say I refuse to give you any information you're asking me for because that's against my own interest. And this phrase got its name from the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution. It's basically saying that everyone has the right to refuse to say anything in the court that's against their own interest. So for example, you could say, I plead the fifth if mom asked me where I was last night. Be like, sorry mom, I'm not telling you anything. I plead the fifth. The next phrase is quit cold turkey. So quit cold turkey means stop doing something very abruptly, and usually it's something that is bad for the person. So for example, you could say, Tim has been drinking soda for years, but he recently quit cold turkey because he wanted to cut down the amount of sugar in his diet. So quit cold turkey. The next phrase is hit the ground running. So when you say hit the ground running, you're indicating that you're starting something immediately without hesitation right here, right now. So you could say, as soon as the CEO approval of the new product came through, the entire office hit the ground running. It means that they started everything right away after the CEO's approval. Hit the ground running. The next phrase is get your ducks in a row. So when you tell someone to get their ducks in a row, you're asking them to be prepared and organized for something that's gonna happen. So for example, you could say, too bad you didn't have your ducks in a row before you quit your job. Now that you have something that you need to work on. It means that they weren't prepared before they quit their jobs, therefore they have some work or issues to deal with now. So get your ducks in a row. Phrase number 22, off the hook. So when you say you're off the hook, it means that you are not responsible for a consequence. So for example, you could say, Jason said he would take care of the project, therefore you are off the hook. Meaning that Jason would take care of the project, therefore you are not responsible for it anymore. And in another situation where you would use this phrase is when you're trying to describe something that's unbelievably amazing. So for example, you could say, I had something off the hook tonight. That dessert is the most amazing thing I've ever had in my life. Meaning that you had something incredible, something amazing. So off the hook. Phrase number 23, break a leg. So when you wish someone break a leg, you're not actually trying to tell them to go break their legs or something. You're trying to wish them good luck on the stage. This phrase is often used in the film industry to wish everything goes well on the stage. So for example, you could say, all right, everyone, let's go out on the stage and break a leg. Break a leg. Phrase number 24, don't cry over spilled milk. So when you tell someone don't cry over spilled milk, you're actually trying to say that, hey, this has already happened and there's nothing we can change about this. So you might as well not be sad about it. Don't cry over it. So for example, you could say the pie has already been burnt, so there was no use crying over spilled milk. Don't cry over spilled milk. The next phrase is to throw someone under the bus. So when you throw someone under the bus, it means that you are accusing someone else to avoid your personal responsibilities, which has a negative connotation to it. So for example, you could say, my coworker threw me under the bus to avoid repercussions. So throw someone under the bus. Phrase number 26, jump on the bandwagon. So when you say you're jumping on the bandwagon, you're indicating that you're doing something that's popular or trending now. Essentially, you mean that you are taking part in a popular movement. So for example, you could say, I decided to jump on the bandwagon and start listening to songs by the K-pop boy band BTS. Jump on the bandwagon. The next phrase is to ride shotgun. So when you ride shotgun, it means that you're riding in the front passenger seat in a vehicle, often a car, meaning you're sitting in a vehicle beside the driver. So for example, you could say, my brother yelled, I called shotgun as he ran over the car and pushed me aside, meaning that your brother is trying to fight with you to sit in the front passenger seat. So ride shotgun. The next phrase is it's all downhill from here. So when you say it's all downhill from here, you're saying that things will only deteriorate from now on. It'll only get worse. So for example, you could say, as everyone at the table started arguing, I knew everything was gonna go downhill from here for the rest of the night. So it's all downhill from here. The next phrase is John Hancock. And if you give someone your John Hancock, it means that you are giving someone else your signature on a document. It's usually used by older people, but it's still a phrase that people use. So for example, you could say, could you give me your John Hancock here? Could you put your John Hancock on this check? So John Hancock. The next phrase is monkey business. So monkey business means being silly, goofy, naughty, or breaking the rules. So for example, you could say, my mom said to be good while she was out. That meant no monkey business. So my mom said to be a good kid and no breaking the rules. Monkey business. Phrase number 31 is to get it off my chest. So when you say you're getting something off your chest, you're saying that you're sharing information that you've been wanting to share. It's usually something that's been bothering you or stressing you out, and you feel very relieved that you finally share it with other people. So for example, you could say, after hiding the half-eaten cookies, I want to confess to you to get it off my chest. Get it off my chest. Phrase number 32 is to beef up. So to beef up means to add power to or to strengthen up. So there's another adjective that derives from this phrase is beefy. So beefy means strong, robust, muscular. It's beefy, like beef that you eat at the dinner table. So for example, you could say the airport security has been beefed up to avoid any disasters. Beef up. Phrase number 33 is barking up the wrong tree. So when someone tells you you're barking up the wrong tree, he's trying to tell you that you have a false impression of the situation, that he can help you, but in fact he cannot. He doesn't have the authority or the ability to help you with the situation. Therefore, you're asking the wrong person for something. So for example, you could say, I told my coworker that he's barking up the wrong tree because I don't have any authority to give him the day off. So barking up the wrong tree. Phrase number 34 is earworm. So when you have an earworm, you're basically saying that there's a catchy song or tune that's continually playing in your head. It's a song that's stuck in your mind. So for example, you could say, after listening to Taylor Swift's new song, I knew that I was gonna have an earworm for the rest of my day. Earworm. Phrase number 35 is plenty of fish in the sea. So when you say there's plenty of fish in the sea, you're saying that a single person has a lot of options out there for future partners. It's often said in consolation after a breakup, meaning that you're trying to comfort a friend that, hey, it's okay to break up with your ex-girlfriend or boyfriend because you have a lot of options out there. So for example, you could say, she was trying to comfort her friend by telling her that there's plenty of fish in the sea. Plenty of fish in the sea. Phrase number 36, make the cut. So when you make the cut, it means that you are chosen or selected, meaning that you meet the requirement of something that's usually pretty important. So for example, you could say, when I saw that my name was on the new team roster, I was so excited that I made the cut. Make the cut. Phrase number 37, hold the line. So to hold the line means to not yield to the pressure of a difficult situation, meaning to not give in to the pressure to do something. So for example, you could say, the soldiers held the line as long as they could against the enemy. Hold the line. And this phrase is also used in a completely different scenario, meaning to stay on the call, to stay on the line. So for example, you could say, could you please hold the line while I check if she is here? Meaning that you want to check for the person calling if someone he wants to talk to is here while he stays on the line. So hold the line. The next phrase is the ball is in someone's court. So you can say the ball is in your court, the ball is in their court, the ball is in my court. It means that the person needs to do something, needs to take action or need to respond before anything else can happen. It means that the progress to be made is dependent on the actions to be taken. So for example, you could say, I responded to the client in the last email, so now the ball is in their court. The ball is in someone's court. The next phrase is joined at the hip. So when two people are joined at the hip, it means that they're almost always together. It means they're inseparable. So for example, you could say, my roommate and I are joined at the hip until she joined a new student club. Joined at the hip. Phrase number 40, give it your best shot. So to give it your best shot means you're putting in your best effort. You're trying as hard as you can to give the maximum amount of effort you can. So for example, you can say that my professor said that he would grade the assignment based on effort, so I should give it my best shot. Give it your best shot. The next phrase is game plan. So a game plan is basically a plan. It means to strategize, is to plan for something that you want to achieve and make it a concrete plan you can execute on. So for example, you could say, my project manager is holding a Zoom call to discuss the game plan for this new upcoming project. Game plan. The next phrase is give someone a hand. So to give someone a hand means to help them out, to help someone out. So for example, you could say, I asked my brother to give me a hand with bringing the groceries in from the car. So give me a hand, give you a hand, give someone a hand. The next phrase is armed to the teeth. So armed to the teeth means you're well equipped with weapons. It means that you're carrying a lot of weapons with you. And this phrase actually originated in the 14th century, where the soldiers, the knights back then, they're often well equipped with weapons. They usually wear head to foot armor. That's where armed to the teeth came from. So for example, you can say the bad guys in the movie were armed to the teeth. So armed to the teeth. Phrase number 44, a party pooper. So a party pooper usually describes someone who ruins or stops the fun. It's usually someone who spoils other people's enjoyment by saying no to an activity. So for example, you can say, I hate to be a party pooper, but I've got to leave to catch the last train. So a party pooper, a party pooper. Phrase number 45, let's touch base. So touching base came from the concept of touching the actual bases in a baseball game. And the term means to briefly reconnect or talk to someone about something. So for example, you can say, my manager said that we should touch base after processing the information on Monday. So let's touch base. Touch base. Phrase number 46, bang for your buck. So bang for your buck means it's a good deal money-wise. It means that you are paying a reasonable price for what you're getting. So for example, you can say, buying at a wholesale store is a better bang for your buck compared to buying at a regular grocery store. So bang for your buck. Phrase number 47, get cold feet. So get cold feet means that you become nervous and refuse to do something. It's usually something that has been planned, but you suddenly lose confidence in it and then you pause the plan. So for example, you can say the bride and groom usually get cold feet right before the wedding. I mean, it happens, right? So get cold feet. Phrase number 48, bare bones. So bare bones means the bare minimum. It's a product of very minimal effort. It means the simplest version of something. So for example, you can say, the teacher was very disappointed when reading the bare bones essays the students turned in. So bare bones. Phrase number 49, table this conversation or table this discussion. So to table a conversation means to pause the conversation and discuss it another time, to put the discussion away for now. So for example, you can say, I told everyone we should table this discussion because it was getting too controversial. So table this conversation or table this discussion. Phrase number 50, get a kick out of it. So getting a kick out of it means that you are really enjoying something, you really like it, you are very entertained by something. So for example, you can say, I really get a kick out of watching cat videos on the internet, or I really get a kick out of watching Claire's video. So get a kick out of it. So the last phrase in this video is to get all dolled up. So to get all dolled up means to make oneself more attractive with fancy clothes or with makeup or with anything you can get your hands on. So for example, you can say, she got all dolled up for the party tonight. Get all dolled up. These are the 51 American English phrases that confuse the rest of the world. I'm so happy that you made it to the end of the video. Play this video every day until you can remember every phrase by heart, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!